Earlier this week, I gave you some reasons as to why the iPhone 15 Pro Max might be the best smartphone of 2023. And in today's video, I'm going to give you the counter argument. So the iPhone 15 Pro Max has a lot going for it. It's nearly perfect in terms of the camera system. I think most people like the photos that come out of this thing. The build quality is the best on the market, and the Apple ecosystem, both the software and the hardware, is completely unmatched. However, there are still some problems with the iPhone 15 Pro Max which you cannot look past. Let's really dig into this thing. Before we get started, just a very quick word from today's sponsor, which is Pitaka. And they recently sent me a bunch of accessories which are perfect for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. They included the super handy Mag Easy Car Mount Pro, which has super strong magnets for using your iPhone in the car. This also has a built-in NFC function that can be used for 3 shortcut commands to optimize your iPhone experience while driving. A rather lovely braided USB-C cable, which you can finally use on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Oh, and a sustainably sourced coffee cup, which in my book is an accessory. But the star of the show is the Mag Easy Case 4 for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. This is super slim, it's lightweight, it's got MagSafe compatibility, it's got a 3D textured grip, it's made from 100% aramid fiber, and it has a raised recycled aramid fiber lip for camera protection. This one is the Milky Way edition. There are some other versions available, and as always, it's one of the best ways to protect your very expensive iPhone 15 Pro Max, although they do have versions for other iPhones, obviously. This case goes fantastically with the awesome carbon fiber watch band for the Apple Watch Ultra, and it sits alongside so many other awesome Pitaka accessories, including the Mag Easy slider, which charges your phone and spins around. What more do you want? The best news is that Pitaka is running a bunch of huge Black Friday deals with up to 60% off selected items. There's also a special offer when you purchase a phone case and a watch band. Grab your Pitaka stuff today, folks. They are fantastic accessories. The link is below. Okay, so the first thing is that this is a really expensive phone. It just is. I had to dig out the numbers, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max in the UK starts at £1,199, and that is for the 256 gig model. For the same sized Pixel 8 Pro, you spend £1,059. Granted, the S23 Ultra from Samsung is more expensive than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And yes, I know most people pay monthly for their phones, but it's still a lot of money for what is basically a portable telephone. And we do live in an incredibly expensive world right now. Food, car insurance, literally everything is more expensive than it was 12 months ago. And the problem that Apple has is that they're known for producing very expensive products, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max does nothing to dispel that. Next up is something which, if you haven't bought an iPhone before, you're going to have to come to terms with. Okay, how do I break this to you? So basically, you can't stop it. No matter how much you try and run away from it, it will keep coming after you. It will go and go and go day and night. It doesn't matter how much you plead, how much you cry, how much you roll on the floor and just tell it to go away. This thing will not stop. And then before you know it, a few months after buying your iPhone 15 Pro Max, you'll have an Apple Watch Ultra, AirPods Pro 2, an iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and a Magic Keyboard, a pending order for a space black 14-inch MacBook Pro that you definitely don't need, and a sudden and completely indefensible urge to buy an Apple polishing cloth. You'll also be knee-deep in carefully curated Apple Music playlists. You'll be ready to head into your 18th Apple Fitness Plus cycling workout, and you'll be continually bombarded by notifications for new editions of the magazines you've signed up to in Apple News Plus, which you never read. Trust me, if you buy an iPhone 15 Pro Max, you'll be welded to the Apple ecosystem for a very long time, and you might regret it. This one is a bit contentious, I know, but if you want to buy the most expensive iPhone going, you do have to be one of those people. Basically, you have to be an Apple person. Now, I sit in that camp, so I can talk about Apple people like that because I'm one of them, and I get called iSheep and iIdiot all the time, so I know what it's all about. But if you don't think you're an Apple person, and you don't really want to be an Apple person, but you want the iPhone 15 Pro Max, you kind of have to come to terms with the fact that you are an Apple person. Think about it, guys. If you weren't an Apple person, would you really spend north of 1,300 quid on an iPhone? You wouldn't. You'd just buy an Android device, or you'd buy the cheapest iPhone going. Sorry to be the bearer of that news, but I'll let you decide as to whether or not it's good or bad news. This one's a bit contentious as well, and if you work for the iOS product team, you probably don't, but if you do, hello. I'm not saying that you don't do anything at work or that you're dragging your heels, but sometimes it does feel a little bit like that's the case. Now, the guts of iOS have changed massively since 2007. The things this phone does behind the scenes are way too clever for my simple brain to comprehend, but iOS has also looked like this for a long time. And yes, we have widgets, we have very clever animations, we have dynamically masked wallpaper on the lock screen. It looks a little bit different, but it's still this kind of wall of icons and a very barricaded user experience. You cannot customize the iPhone 15 Pro Max as much as you can customize, let's say, the Pixel 8 Pro or the S23 Ultra. And for some people that doesn't matter, and to be honest, I sit in that camp as well. But if that does matter to you, this isn't the phone for you. I think Apple is the best business on the planet when it comes to marketing. The way they use storytelling and copy and imagery to make you spend a lot of money on stuff that you probably don't need is genius. The problem is that a lot of that stuff that they market very well turns out to be a bit of a non-event in real life. And there are a few examples of that with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The first one is Dynamic Island, which, if you're not aware, is this thing at the top of the screen. So if, for instance, I'm playing some music and it's playing there and I swipe up, didn't even work. Brilliant. It wasn't playing. Hang on, bear with me. Press play. So I'm playing some music, I flip up, it goes into Dynamic Island, I can press Dynamic Island, and it's interesting. It's a nice way to hide that camera housing. And yes, there are some great examples of it being used. Uber and Ringo, the parking app, those two things spring to mind. They do a very good job of using the Dynamic Island. But if Apple did what every other smartphone manufacturer does and just reduce the size of that notch to a little pinhole camera and give us an under-screen fingerprint reader, we just wouldn't need the Dynamic Island. The same goes for the action button, which is this thing here. This replaces the rocker switch for the mute option, which has been a thing on the iPhone since the iPhone 1 back in 2007. This is what will happen. You'll get it, you'll press it, you'll change it to do different things, and then you'll just set it to be the camera option. So basically you'll hold it down, it will fire up the camera, hopefully, and then you can use it to take photos. You can use it as the shutter button. That is what you'll do, ultimately, with the action button, and then you'll never use it. Honestly, guys, I never press that action button. When I'm taking photos, I just do what I've always done and press that. Oh, and do not get me started on spatial video. Speaking of photos, the photos that are produced by the iPhone 15 Pro Max aren't as good. They're not anywhere near as good, in my opinion, as the photos produced by the Pixel 8 Pro. That is all I'm going to say on the matter. It's a very personal preference. You may agree, you may not agree. Let me know in the comments. The iPhone 15 Pro Max is still a massive phone. I went to someone's house recently and I'd left this on the table somewhere and they walked past it and said, "Wow, that phone's massive, what is it?" And I thought we lived in a world now where phones, well, all phones are big, surely, but clearly that ain't the case. But flagship phones, again, like this, like the Pixel 8 Pro, do tend to be very big. And if you're coming from a slightly smaller phone, like let's say the iPhone 13 mini, it's still too big for me sometimes. I struggle to get it in certain pockets, and also that means that it spends most of its time out of my pocket and somewhere else, which means I'm in danger of losing it. The number of times I've left this on the passenger seat of my car and just left the car with the phone in it it's unthinkable. And even though we've switched to titanium, which is still, it's a lovely thing, trust me, and it has reduced the weight, this is still a massive slab of glass and titanium. This one might not be popular, but I'm going to say it anyway. The display on the iPhone 15 Pro Max is beautiful. It's lovely. It's bright, it's sharp, brilliant in daylight. It's good on your eyes in low light, and it's got the lovely, dynamically changing white balance, all that sort of stuff. It's just not the best on the market. The best smartphone display on the market, in my opinion, is the S23 Ultra. Whatever Samsung does to its displays just works for me. The Pixel 8 Pro as well has a better display than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It's brighter, there's just something more vibrant about it. I'm really sorry, but I'm really sorry. So those are the reasons that the iPhone 15 Pro Max may not be my smartphone of the year for 2023, and I bet you've got one question now. Is it my smartphone of the year? And if it isn't, what is? It's not my smartphone of the year. I think you have to be an Apple person through and through to truly appreciate this phone. That is a massive market, obviously, but it just doesn't seem fair to award this phone the phone of the year because of that. I think that alienates a lot of people, particularly when you consider how expensive this thing is. So, what is my smartphone of the year for 2023? Well, I do have one, and I'm going to reveal it later this year. You will be massively surprised. So, hit that subscribe button, smash that bell, and keep watching for a link to another video that I think you'll find very, very interesting.